2-1.
Hi everybody, Julia Sansevier. Welcome to the Martin County Difference on Facebook Live. I've got Marty Baum in the house with me. We're just on Facebook Live right now, not on the radio. Yeah. Okay. So here's Marty. Hi,
yeah,
Marty.
Me. Howdy.
And thanks for joining us on the Martin County Difference. Share this with all your friends, okay? And also like the page, the Martin County Difference, and the way we grow this audience is through you out there. This is social media. I've been having this conversation today about the new wave. Like first we had networks, and then we had cable companies, then we had Amazon.com, the internet, Netflix, they've all got programs. Now it's social media, yeah. And I'm taking full advantage of it.
And then we had Evan Miller, and all of a sudden we had 7,000 people at the locks.
That's right. Thank you, Evan. I hope you're listening. Evan Miller's been on the show before, and he started Citizens for Clean Water. And so tonight on the Martin County Difference, which I started this show, hopefully to make a difference and highlight people who are making a difference in our community to make this world a better place for all of us. One fine example is right here to my right, Marty Baum. He's our Indian Riverkeeper. We're going to talk about what that is. What does he do? How did this come to be? And where we are in terms of our rivers, our Lake Okeechobee discharges, that kind of thing. Marty certainly is the go-to guy for all of that.
One of
them. A very good one. And so I'm very excited to have you in the studio tonight.
I'm honored that you invited me. Thank you.
I'm really tickled. I'm all a Twitter. And then there's Twitter. So we're going to be going on the radio in a minute and a half on WSTU 1450, and gather around your friends. We will be going on the radio, and they're also going to be on WSTUTV.com. That's their internet webcam. So if you can't, if you know people who can't see this on Facebook, ring them up and tell them to turn on the radio, or on their internet, they can look for it. And I'm a realtor. I'm with Coldwell Banker in town, and so I will do a little real estate commercial here and there. Got some beautiful listings to talk about, and we really are in an incredible place here, the Treasure Coast. Thanks for coming on the radio in a minute, and we'll talk about that. But part of that and why we're talking about this is because my business is affected as much as anybody else's, and the economics of it. It's not just about fish; it's about people.
It's about a way of life.
A way of life.
The state of Florida has done a number of surveys. About 3 or 4 years ago, they did a survey, and the number one concern of Floridians was clean water.
Right.
Above all other things. And yet, our state government has done every single thing that they can to deregulate and to relax our protections. Last summer we saw the algae blooms. They're not going away. That's the new normal. The state of Florida has relaxed its nutrient protections, and that's what we're going to live with until that's fixed. And it's tough.
I know it's frustrating.
Okay, live.
And so
opinions on this program are not necessarily those of WSTU Digital 1450. The opinions expressed are those of the program hosts and guests. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is
my intro. Dance. Hi everybody, thanks for joining us tonight on the Martin County Difference. I'm Julia Sansevier. Yep, I'm a realtor with Coldwell Banker here in town, and some of you know or don't know that I started this radio show because of Dancing with the Martin Stars, and I've continued the show because I really want to make a difference, and I recognize that our county is different, and there are many people who make a difference. And in the studio tonight with me is Marty Baum. He is making a huge difference and trying to help us all make a difference regarding our rivers. He's the Indian Riverkeeper, so we're going to discuss all about what that is, what does he do, how did this come to be, where we've been and where we're going. And I'm going to talk a little bit about real estate, because real estate is affected as much as our lives are affected by dirty water, We all have a right to clean water. So, Marty Baum, thank you very much for coming on the show tonight. This is a huge honor for me because I look up to you because you've been there, done that.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words. I'm the one who's honored. I have been a believer in the Martin County difference since it began in the 1980s. As Indian Riverkeeper, I have been in support of restoration of our comprehensive growth management plan. I've been involved in 3 intercession lawsuits to protect us when other entities wanted to break that comp plan. I believe in it. Wherever I go in the state of Florida, I tell them that we are different. I say, you know, look around you right now. There's no structure taller than 4 stories except for the hospital. You can be out on the lagoon and you can look up and you can tell where St. Lucie County starts and where Palm Beach County starts, because that's where the condos jump up to 12, 14, 18, 20 stories.
Right.
And we're capped at 4. So I seriously believe in the Martin County difference. Our urban service boundaries, our density levels, our schools are amongst the finest. Our sheriff is good. Our supervisor of elections is good. We're just in, you know, when you look at the entire state, we're in really good shape here because of some very forward-thinking people who have fought long and hard to maintain this difference. And it's not easy. The assaults are endless.
True, and I think that's true in every aspect of life where we live. If we don't take care of our planet, it cannot take care of us. So this is not just ecology and the environment. It is about sustaining our life on this planet. And so, you know, there's a nickname out there, the tree huggers. And call me one. I don't think that's a dirty word. I believe firmly in embracing what God has given us through, you know, our waters, our beautiful nature that we have around us. I mean, before there were people and buildings and cars, you know, you lived off the land, and you had to make your survival based on that. Now we've got McDonald's, you know, but what we do need to do, and my husband and you and I were talking earlier, is bring back the life in the river somehow and control what's going on. And we're going to talk about all those things, but one thing we were saying is that when we first arrived here 17 years ago, is that right? Yeah, in 2000, and we live on the water, and we could hear fish jumping all the time.
Sure.
And just don't hear them jumping anymore.
There's not as many.
There's not as many, okay.
Where do you live? You live on the estuary?
We live in Stewart on the Manatee Pocket.
Okay.
Okay. And the other issue is he brought up is the BP spill. So anytime you're leaching toxic substances into waters where, you know, fish don't live on oil. They live in the water, you know, and they have gills and they can't process that oil. So, you know, our contention is that even something in the Gulf, water flows everywhere.
Sure.
You know, so we have our rivers, and yes, I was reading up about all the things that you've done and what you've been involved in. There's so much to talk about. One exciting thing is I was up at the River Warrior Lodge one evening not too long ago, and there was a documentary team there. And I noticed that it just came out yesterday.
It did?
It did, and I watched it today. It's very good. It's on YouTube, folks, and all you have to do is put in the words Indian Riverkeeper, Marty Baum, and you'll come across it. It is a very well done documentary. I believe that, who was the group that did it?
Brett Muller. Well, actually it was Vice.
Vice, that's right. Vice Media, they did it. And it's really good because it brings up the fact that you're working with ORCA, and they are monitoring our water. And the ORCA is ORCA, and it stands for Ocean Research and Conservation Association, right?
Yep.
And the woman who is involved in it is a deep sea biologist. And do you have her name?
That's Dr. Edie Witter.
Dr. Edie Witter, okay.
She is a world famous marine scientist who specialized in bioluminescence. I don't know how many of you
things that glow in the water, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
Actually, her first contract, big contract, after she got frocked as a doc, was she worked with the United States Navy to help them better understand the bioluminescence. I can tell you as a submariner that we feared nothing except an aircraft, and the problem with an aircraft is we could be 100 feet down and moving at nighttime, and we can be seen because the whole boat lights up. It's spectacular to see, but it's very scary when you're skulking around in places that you really don't want to get caught. So anyway, Edie did that. I don't know how many people out there watched the story on the hunt for the giant squid, but Dr. Edie Witter was part of that, and she had been in Monterey and had put some instruments on the bottom of the ocean, and she reached a conclusion that the submersibles that we're using make a whole lot of noise and it chases things away. So she developed a camera platform that she called Medusa, and she theorized that a jellyfish in deep water doesn't light up and flash to scare the predator away from it. It lights up to bring a predator in to eat the thing that's about to eat them. And when she put a camera platform down in Monterey Bay, within a couple minutes, a new species that had never been seen before of squid showed up. I mean, within mere minutes.
Wow.
So when they went out there, they tried submersibles and they just couldn't find anything. So Edie put the Medusa camera platform on the bottom and put the electronic jellyfish, and it lit up. And doggone it, if the squid didn't come right over the top of the jellyfish and attack the camera platform, because it thought that was attacking the jelly and it would be something to eat. And they got it on film for the first time ever at a couple 1,000 feet deep. So Edie, she's wonderful. When I'm engaged with children all over the place. Our river kids here, and our Solidarity Fish, our Youth Driven Cinema, our river kids up in St. Lucie, and I tell all the girls, you can be anything you want, and use her as your example. I mean, it shows these young girls that they can be a scientist, and they can be in the forefront, and they can lead. They don't have to sit back. They can be the one. And Edie and Dr. Beth Warren, who also works there, is another one. They're just really, really fine people, and they mentor. They have their own Kilroy Academy where they teach kids about the water and about their monitor systems and what we look for and what we're learning. It's all a big circle. I can't speak highly enough of Orca. It's like Mark Perry in Florida Oceanographic.
Oh, yeah.
How many thousands of us have been taught about the lagoon by Mark Perry and his staff? Seine and nets at the Environmental Studies Center in Jensen Beach. My son, every summer. My wife's children, every summer. That's what you did. You send your kid there so they go seine in the river. They get to explore and see things without mom and dad. They can be amongst their peers and such, and it makes a difference. I could not be prouder of the people that I get the opportunity to work with, and if I were to be asked what's the greatest joy of my job, it would also be the greatest surprise, the friendships that I never would have made otherwise, that are now some of them for life. And then the kids. When you watch the empowerment of ownership with a kid, when they realize that it's their water and their animals, and they have a voice, and we encourage them. Look at the two middle school girls that have now turned into just fabulous young women. Look at what they started.
With the River Kids.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, they're writing their own speeches, and they're going to commission and council meetings and governing board meetings and going to Tallahassee. And these people, they see Marty Baum come, and it's like they glaze. Well, it's that guy again. I've already heard all of him. Yeah. When a kid talks, they're up like this and they're paying attention. And, they understand if they disrespect a kid, they might as well set themselves on fire in the parking lot because nobody's going to tolerate it. Yeah. But it's all about the kids anyway.
It really is.
It's about them. How do we save something for them? How do we restore it so that they might have a chance to see what I saw in the mid-'60s out here, where it just was so alive, and I don't care where you went or what you did, you were surrounded by wildlife, fish and creatures and birds, and it just was incredible. And as a sixth-generation Floridian whose family has been on the lagoon since 1868, and I have a whole wall of Florida stuff. Sandy Thurlow is like, Sandy and I, we cultivate friendships and we send them stuff so we have somebody to talk to, like Nathaniel Osborne. Now, he wrote a master thesis called Oranges and Inlets. It was fabulous, and now he has a book, The Environmental History of the Indian River Lagoon. And so we cultivate these things, and there's probably another waterkeeper anywhere that knows more about the history of their watershed than I do mine. I mean, I've had somebody on the lagoon since 1868. Colonel Pierce is a cousin. The first non-Indian child born in Stewart is Alwina Stipman. She's my cousin. Roots go deep.
Neighborhoods named after these people and roads, and that's wonderful that you're entrenched in this community, because that just gives it such, I think, validity and authenticity. I mean, nobody can meet you and not realize you're not authentic.
Well,
you are.
The first opportunity I got to serve my community was sitting on the trustee steering committee at the House of Refuge, and then I got on the board of directors and then the executive board of the feed store. I served a term as Martin County's Historic Preservation Board. So my first foray into serving my community, and I believe everybody should serve their community, was through history.
Yeah.
You know, when Ross Witham died, I was asked to take his place. Those are some pretty big shoes.
I'd say
you know?
so.
And I did all right. I did. You know, there for a time I had 3 things on MCTV that I had done. I love it. It's worthy.
Well, it is. And on the video that Vice TV did, you said a wonderful thing, which is you want to be able to say you did what you could. You did your part. When your children grow up and your grandchildren, and they look around them, hopefully they'll have something to look around at that's worthy of looking at, and that you will have done your part, because I think hopefully most of us are instilled with that goodness that says, you know, leave a place better than what you found it. The Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts.
That's right.
Yeah.
Leave no trace.
Leave no trace, right?
I pick up trash everywhere I go. Everywhere I go. And it works. I don't even have to say a word. Before I know it, other people. We were in Pittsburgh. And you guys know George Jones, right? He was my predecessor, George?
Yes.
We went to eat lunch at some famous deli in Pittsburgh, and we're coming back, and I'm picking trash up. And it's like, what are you doing? So I'm picking up trash. Why? Because it's here. Before you know it, everybody's picking it up. What better way
it's the ripple effect.
Yes. Well, what better way to get a kid to pick something up than to have them see you do it? Not you tell them, but you do it.
Right.
And then not say anything.
Right.
And then they realize that maybe I should be doing this too. And, you know, we've got a group of people out there now that are taking their kids out to the beach, and they're cleaning stuff up, and they're making art out of it. You know, the Martin County Rocks thing is another way to...
They've been on here at the same
to engage their kids in the community. And it's so much better than having them sit and doing this stuff on their iPads in the house. Get them out of the house and get them to express themselves. Art is empowerment.
It sure is.
It is empowerment, and you know, and nobody's ever told these kids it don't look like that. So it's original art. It's like when the river kids were painting the signs.
Yeah.
It's like Janine Mason's Solidarity Fish. I can't tell you how cool it was to be part of the group that got
skeletal-looking fish.
They got to paint fish that went on the Florida Christmas tree in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
That's
and you know,
cool.
Mark Perry hosted that one. So.
And speaking of Washington, D.C., we need to pressure our representatives in Congress. This is from my very own mother on Facebook, and I know my niece Georgia is listening in. She's there with her. And tell them to get the administration, you know, don't cut the EPA budget. You know, maybe we do need the Environmental Protection Agency a little bit. We need that. But also that we need people to write and speak up and get on this bandwagon to make sure we are heard, our voices are heard, that we save what we have and improve what we have damaged if we can. And that's one thing I wanted to talk about, is that it not only is the Indian River Lagoon, it's the St. Lucie River, and by virtue of all being connected, it's the Everglades. And the Everglades are a precious, precious natural resource for Florida, and I think of them as a national treasure.
I have tried to get away from using the term natural resource. It implies something that needs to be used.
Okay.
These are natural treasures.
Thank you.
To be preserved for the future.
Okay. I like that.
Sadly, the water policies of the state of Florida have for 30 years have defaulted to agriculture and whatever they want. And the Everglades and the citizens' safety, and this is about to become a really big issue. I am, at my core, frightened about what the consequences of this cyanobacteria is going to be in our future. There is some really good science that suggests that we need to take a real good look at this stuff, that 15 years down the road, we could be having serious, fatal diseases contracted from this. From liver cancer is one of them, but the BMA, the beta-N-methylalanine amine, is a neurotoxin. It's one of about 40. It's the only one that they've ever really studied. So the other 39 could be doing terrible things to us too. And if it doesn't happen right away, we would never know it.
Yeah.
The reason we know about this is because it makes you sick right away. And then there was an incident in Guam. During World War II, the indigenous folks of Guam could not fish because they would be shot by either the Americans or the Japanese. So they went into the jungle, and they make a flour out of the cycad, one of the cycad fruits, and they also eat what are fruit bats, but they consider them to be like flying squirrels. Well, 15 years later, 25% of the population is now terminal with all kinds of degenerative neurological diseases. And they traced it back to the cyanobacteria that's in the cycads that gets amplified in the apex predator, which is the squirrel. You know, if you eat a piece of plankton, you get a little bit, but if you eat the minnow, you get 10 times as much. If you eat the little trout, you get 10 times as much. If you eat the snook, you get 10 times as much. If you eat the tuna, you know, it just the apex predator, it just goes right up
the food chain.
And you know, when the University of Miami School of Medicine took the brain tissue and they discovered that everybody who died of a degenerative neurological disease had high levels of BMAA in their brain tissue, and all those who didn't. That's a smoking gun.
Yeah.
Now consider this. We have the Middle Cove right here, and every summer, all summer, we have a prevailing southeast breeze. What happened to us was there was a thin film of blue-green algae everywhere, and the wind pushed it to the north shore, and because it was from the southeast, it pushed it to the north shore, and it migrated to the west until it found those two canals, and it got pushed in, and it couldn't get away. So it just got thicker and thicker and thicker. Yeah. I live in between the two of those, and had just had oral surgery, had this much of my palate open bone where they peeled it off and they had to graft it. They had to go up in and do all kinds of things to my bone and everything. It was terrible. So at 10 o'clock in the morning, I can't go out of my own yard in Ryle because it burned in my eyes and my sinuses, and I know that if I get one of these wazoo, MRSA, or staph infections a quarter inch from my intellect, I'm not even going to have a chance to say goodbye. It's just going to be over for me.
Oh my God.
I firmly believe that stuff is dangerous to us. The state of Florida, rather than erring on the side of safety for us, they had a finding 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. They were getting ready to discharge. Some river warriors went out there, Captain Mike Connor, Michelle Connor, Kenny Hinkle, and a few others. They went out there and they saw 5 acres of cyanobacteria pushed up against the lock. And they said, you can't discharge that. And the state says, oh, we didn't know it was there. Camera surveilled 24 hours a day, antifreeze green, and they didn't see it. Right. Well, the state of Florida, they had a finding. It took them 2 days, but they had a finding. Here's their finding. The cyanobacteria is a stagnant water algae, and when the water moves, it goes away. And if it doesn't matter anyway, because the minute it hits salt water, it dies. Well, here's the thing. When it dies, when this freshwater cyanobacteria hits salt water, the cell walls explode, and they dump their nutrients and their neurotoxins right where they are.
Oh.
When we had this at St. Lucie Marine, which is now called something else, some other marina, I'll never get past that.
That's okay.
You know, it took a month for the the 6, 8, 10 inches of guacamole to die and be assimilated into the environment. And the state came in and they tested the water and they said, okay, the water's okay. Orca came in the next day and took a sediment sample that they had to dilute 4 times before they could get it into a range that they could actually read in their laboratory. So it didn't go away, it's in the sediment. All of this, it's accumulating. Every time the wind blows, this stuff is coming back up, and we have no idea of its longevity. No one has seriously studied it. So if the state is wrong, everywhere, I mean, it's not just our body of water. Every body of water in Florida tested is impaired because the state of Florida reduced the nutrient protections in 13. They were supposed to tighten things up and clean the water up. Instead, they changed the definition of pollution. They relaxed nutrient standards so that their buddies out here on the fields could do whatever they want with their dirty water. And then they changed the definition of what is natural. If you got a seawall, a weir, a structure on it, it's no longer considered natural. Now it's a conveyance, and it's absolutely immune from pollution control. You know, Army Corps.
This is in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, Army Corps, they don't hide behind it, but they stand behind it because it's true. Their job is the movement of water. It has nothing to do with the quality of water. It doesn't matter. They have no authority over that. They can't say, no, we're not moving that water because it's polluted and it's going to kill somebody. They don't have the legal right to take that stand. Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the ones who 4 years ago contrived a brand new way to test for carcinogens. They call it the probabilistic test. Everybody else uses the deterministic, which means numbers mean something. This probabilistic, it's kind of like a casino where you don't. It's like shooting crap. You don't know what's going to happen until something happens. And what they say, and they will stand up and pound the table with it, is this new way is going to protect you better. And I say, bull sugar to that. When you double our exposure to known carcinogens, you are not protecting us better. But they are hiding behind this test as okay, but the test says we're okay to do this. The state of Florida, 3 years ago, refused to vote. I went at them in kind of a personal way. I want to get into it, but my goddaughter's youngest sister died of cancer at age 3.
Oh.
And
so sorry.
And us too.
And she's local here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Port St. Lucie.
Okay.
And it was painful. Daddy, why does it hurt so bad? And I asked him, I said, can you imagine anything worse in your whole life than hearing those words come from your baby? And then this is what you're forcing upon the families of Florida. And I jumped all over him. Mm-hmm. I said, I don't know how you can look at yourself in the mirror. I said, I promise you, from here on out, your name will be attached to every cancer death of a child in the state of Florida with your picture. I'm going to make sure. And they wouldn't vote. This time, every 3 years, we have to go through this process of reevaluating. This time, the governor left 2 seats unfilled. The environmental and the municipality seats were unfilled. He filled the lay seat, which means somebody like us, with a former Nestle attorney who had just been the lead attorney for the Florida Department of Environmental Prostitution. So he had a DEP lawyer sitting in the lay seat. And of course, the vote was 3-2. And sadly, 2 of the votes to further poison our children, they had wombs. They're women. The men here, it's not our contribution to the pregnancy that causes the autism and the things. Bobby Kennedy Jr. will tell you that 1 out of 6 women of childbearing age in America have enough mercury in their womb to affect the neurological development of their children. 1 in 6. And you can't escape it because it's in the air and it's in the environment. It's mercury from these coal-fired plants. It's like lead was everywhere when we were using leaded gas.
Right.
We could stop it right now here, but the rest of the world is using it, and it's already inculcated into our environment. In the EAA, they put sulfate down because the muck is the wrong pH and they need to deal with this stuff. And what that does is it enables the bacteria to work on the mercury and turn it into a methylmercury, which is a neurotoxin.
Right.
So, all the way down the line, we're simply not being protected by the state of Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And the only thing that we have is the EPA, and that is about to be dissolved. And we're very close to a tipping point. When autism has gone from 1 in 5,000 births in 1975 to 1 in 50 for girls and 1 in 37 for boys today, I firmly believe that the 88,000 registered compounds out there, that less than 10% have been tested alone and none have been tested together, I think that therein lies our issue. You can blame it on vaccines all you want, but I think it's the entirety. The glyphosate that we are spraying in our Roundup and our rodeo, the atrazine, which is an endocrine interrupter, that we're deliberately spreading endocrine interrupters on our yards to kill the weeds.
Well, that's what I want to talk about, is what can we do as citizens besides write our government leaders, because this is a political thing.
It all starts at home.
It does
with
start at
personal
home.
responsibility.
So personal responsibility would be to use natural things. You have a beautiful garden. Let's talk about your garden. You and Robin, your beautiful wife, who, thank you, Robin, for posting the link for the video on YouTube on the comments, and thank you everybody for commenting. Carrie Caroline is saying you're doing a wonderful job, Marty, and we all appreciate your hard work. So you'll see the comments up there, folks. And we do need to do something ourselves to start, because where does it start? You can't fix it all at once. But we have homes where we fertilize our yards. We have chemicals that we use. We need to stop using the chemicals, I would say. You have a garden that has nothing that was poisonous, and you have beautiful flowers.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Just planted it and let it go.
Water. And you use clean water.
There are some pests that cause me problems. I handpick them sometimes. The milkweed seed eaters are a problem.
Okay.
I will take isopropyl alcohol and some Dawn and put it in a spray bottle and shoot the aphids on the milkweed with that. Other than that, I really don't have a lot of problems. We have lizards everywhere, and they take care of it.
There you go. Nature takes care of herself. I just want to go back to what you were saying about in the soil and in the muck. The orca, that video, you definitely all got to go out there. I hope that goes viral. Let's, this show, like it. It's going to be on YouTube later after tonight, and so please subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Martin County Difference. Like and share this program from Facebook if you want to do that. Be in the group. The Facebook group is the Martin County Difference. You get postings there when something's going on, and follow me as a person, Julia Sansevier. And I'm always doing something out in the community. And I just want to take a second here to go back up a little bit. I was the announcer for the marathon of the Treasure Coast, and I had the best time ever. So I'll just say, to catch people up on that.
Did you wear your sneakers?
I did.
How cool.
Yeah, and I didn't even have to run. But just real quickly, so we're going to just go to the marathon of the Treasure Coast, just because people like to hear how did things go the week before. They were on the show last week, and also the folks from Luna Fest, the Junior League. Both events were huge successes. I had a blast. There were 40 states and 9 countries represented. Just so you know who's coming to the Treasure Coast, and this is another reason it ties in. I promise we'll get back to this, but this does tie into what we're talking about tonight. We want to show off our beautiful community, of course we do. And so it was a beautiful weekend, and everything is cleaned up now because it's not summertime. And summertime is when that toxic algae bloom gets the worst because of the heat. But, I couldn't have been prouder, and Gene Brower and Kim Major and John Trahan and Mike Milton, those are all the people involved in the race, did such a great job. And the Junior League Luna Fest raised a lot of money for breast cancer research. These are wonderful entities in our community, folks. So if you have the desire to be involved in any service-based organization, I encourage you to do so. Volunteering makes you feel better about yourself. And Marty has a website. I encourage you to go there and look at the Riverkeeper website. It's indianriverkeeper.org, and there is a place there to contact him and send in money. And all money is used to advance the cause of keeping our very own waters clean. The money stays here. And you have a boat. I just want to talk a little bit about the mechanics of what you do. You have a boat, and you go out in your boat, and you check on things. And it's not just dirty water. It's fish kills, that kind of thing.
You know, one of the greatest assets that I have is the fishermen and the guides.
Right.
Because if they're not situationally aware of the environment, they can't make a living. So they're the first ones to notice things that are out of whack. And they'll give me a call. I've been doing water collection samples for Dr. Larry Brand on a BMA project for years now. I'm always nosing around. I love the water. I love the lagoon. I've been on it, you know, since I was a child. I would like to see it restored to its past grandeur. You know.
I have a question about that. Do you think it's possible?
Okay, here's a story. We only had one natural inlet that stayed open with any length of time, and that was called the Indian River Inlet. Right. Now, we had one at the northern end, the Ponce Inlet or New Smyrna up there, and then we had the Jupiter Inlet, which in the old days was closed half the time too. Just the Indian River Inlet. And after a number of attempts, in 1892, we hired a steam-powered dredge, the Eric, that had just finished at Jupiter, to come and dredge what we today call the St. Lucie Inlet. The same year, Senator Quay from Pennsylvania, who had a winter home, that's why you'll see Quay and Winters Beach up in St. Lucie County because of that. He had a house that was directly across from the Indian River Inlet, but the inlet, the channel was Fort Pierce Channel, and it curves towards the southwest. So the same year that we spent $5 grand to open this one, he got a $15,000 appropriation, and he reconfigured that inlet, straightened it out so he could see out of it, made it wider and deeper. So it defeated the rule, the 5-year rule. The 5-year rule is that if you don't dredge your inlet every 5 years, it bars over, becomes unnavigable, and in a winter storm can bar over overnight. Bang, and you're done. Now that almost happened at the beginning of my tenure in 13. We were, you know, the inlet was really, really shallow, and I was in a tackle shop, and I would hear battles. Well, I have a small boat, it doesn't matter. These rich people in their big boats, that's not it at all. If that inlet closes, the only place that the St. Lucie can discharge is out the Fort Pierce Inlet. That means it's going to kill everything between Stewart and Fort Pierce too, instead of just killing our estuary. So it changes the game. So about 1911 or so, we had a winter storm and the Indian River Inlet barred over. In the northern lagoons, north of Vero, there's a hydrological change at Vero. South of Vero, we have a 3-week turnover of our water column to ocean with no discharges. So every 3 weeks, all of our water is brand new to the ocean, and that's why we have such beautiful biodiversity here at our inlet. It's spectacular. Fort Pierce is pretty good too. I mean, you know, Little Jim Flat, Grant Gilmore's found 140 species of fish on that flat alone. So yeah, it's biodiverse is very, very rich. So north of Vero, though, in the Indian River Lagoon, it's 1 year for 100% turnover. And the Banana River Lagoon, which is almost landlocked, that's where we had the big fish kill 2 Marches ago. Yeah. 40 square miles. It's 2 years for 50% turnover. And there's places in the Mosquito Lagoon south of the Hullover that never get a turnover. Grant Gilmore's had salinity levels of 60 parts per thousand, which is almost double seawater. So what goes in up there stays in up there, but they don't have a lot of agricultural discharges. So most of theirs is road runoff, some agriculture, people, especially the Banana River Lagoon. It's septic tanks, it's lawn fertilizing, and it's a poorly performing sewer plant that dumps a million gallons a year without consequence into the lagoon. So we have different issues hydrologically. North, when the Indian River Inlet shut, it went fresh because they had cut through the Atlantic coastal ridge and they were draining the St. John's Basin to us because it drained it faster, and they could grow crops. It turned fresh and it entirely collapsed. Every saltwater thing died. It became stagnant, stinky. They were worried about all kinds of malaria. So they all got together, and on the 6th try, they finally punched through an inlet at Sebastian. 2 nights later, the citrus guys and the cattle guys cut down a bunch of cabbage palms, drug it there, and dynamited the damn thing shut, and it took them another year to get it back open because they didn't want the salt water to contaminate their wells, and Henry Flagler was behind this because the salt water, the worms in the salt water ate his bridges up. So he was having to replace his bridges and didn't like that. He wanted it to remain fresh. So all of this leads to my confidence that even though it can collapse, and will collapse if you treat it badly, once you get it some clean water and give it a chance, it will restore itself. If we stopped dumping dirty water on ourselves here, this thing would fix itself. Now, it might not ever come back to what it was. Keeping in mind now, we're just getting royally screwed here from every direction. We have about 300,000 acres of unnatural watershed that we are being assigned to, and it's all agriculture now. We're talking sod, citrus, and cattle, all out there in western Martin and St. Lucie counties. And on top of that, that's your C44, 23, 24, 25 agricultural basins. On top of that, we have the entire watershed of the Kissimmee River Valley and all of Okeechobee, and then we have the plug at the south end of the lake. So we get all of that coming out the C44. And, you know, when Charlie Crist decided he wanted to buy the U.S. sugar land, he took everything off the plate, so it would be the only request to Congress for this. What they took off the plate was the C44, 23, 24, 25 STAs. Martin County and St. Lucie County, we taxed ourselves. We didn't go to the state with our hand out.
No.
We said, look what we've done. Now help us.
Right.
Help us. Build these STAs because we need some kind of relief from all this dirty agricultural water.
And tell people what an STA is.
Storm treatment area. Sorry.
Storm treatment area. Okay.
And
okay, we'll take a little break. Hang on, folks. We're going to come back live with Marty Baum on the, he's the Indian Riverkeeper on the Martin County Difference. So stay tuned. We'll be on Facebook, but we're going to take a break on the radio. And so stay tuned after the break on the radio. Okay.
Planted seeds while I was sleeping.
Thank you, Frank.
And the vision that was planted in my brain.
And then just turn the radio down. Thanks. Okay. So, Marty, just real quickly on Facebook, for my Facebook friends out there, thank you for chiming in. Sharon Hillpaw says hello. Your dear wife put the post up there of the YouTube. Thanks for all the likes. Keep hitting the like button, folks. Keep hitting the share button because we've got another 15 minutes or so on the air with Marty. And I'll tell you about my an open house or two I'm having this weekend. But Amy Lane is saying, I love you, Marty Baum. And Eric Ziegler says the video was great. And excellent job, by the way, Marty. And you did do an excellent job on that, explaining things. And so that's the one thing is I want to make sure we come away with tonight is that I know for those of us in this area, we know, but there are going to be people out there on YouTube and on Facebook when this plays back again and again that won't know the situation here. So I want to cut it back down to basics, and it's about the river flow. It's about the Lake Okeechobee discharges. How can we get that to stop? Because they can't figure out a way to let it go back to the way it was.
yeah, they can. They're just not interested in it.
And why are they not interested?
Because agriculture rules the roost.
Okay.
Every water decision in Florida defers to ag. Now, don't think for a minute that I'm anti-ag.
No, we have to work together.
What I am is I'm opposed to corporate farming that does not that isn't a steward of the land. You know, we've lost most of our farmers. A farmer being a man who has his children and grandchildren on the property. He tends it. He's a steward. He wants the land to be good so that his children and grandchildren can also grow up and be farmers too.
10 seconds.
Okay.
But we've lost that. Corporations have taken over, and you know they are required by law to make a profit. The CEO, if he tries to do things that cost his company money, they can fire him. So
Now back to the Martin County
It's
Difference here on
money. Follow the
WSTU
money.
Digital 1450.
Follow the money. And we're coming back from the break from the radio. Hi, this is Julia Sansevier. Thanks for coming back on WSTU 1450. and on the internet, WSTUTV.com. And thanks for sticking with us on Facebook Live. And again, this will be posted to YouTube on the Martin County Difference channel. And please do subscribe to that channel so you can get updates when new programs are coming out. And I would love it to go viral, especially programs like this. If we can get the word out and people will figure out that, you know, this is not just our little part of the world, this is something bigger. This is us needing to take care of what's going on in our own backyard, and it affects, it's a ripple effect.
Everybody.
Everybody. And we started to say, while the radio folks were away, I want to break it down to the basics of what do other people need to know who don't live in this area, who might tune in and see and hear us and go, what are they talking about? What we are talking about is the desire, the demand for clean water. And yeah, we have water coming out of our tap. It's clean. That's not what we're saying. We're talking about the water surrounding us. Or is it? Right. You know, we don't know. But water is essential to life. And we want to work and live with our neighbors who sustain us through their farms. We all have to work together to make sure that we don't cross pollute. And the biggest thing is that on the video that I heard was that on YouTube, the video that you're in, Marty, is that the fertilizer that they're using, urea, and that's turning into ammonia. It's a pretty big deal that's a recent change. And so we're talking about pollutants. We're talking about runoffs.
Well, that's an interesting thing. Scott Miracle-Gro, the owner of that multinational, lives local, and he was concerned. He didn't like the blame being put upon, you know, his company's practices and such.
Right.
So he approached Orca, and they went through some interesting dances legally on how Orca could do a study for them and still be protected from the information being skewed as an endorsement of Orca of their practices. And they tightened that all up. They went and they grabbed samples out of C23, C24 sediment samples at all the outfalls over the course of a year. Then they got permission to go up into the ditches and start following this stuff back. And the surprise, I guess, for Edie and her team was that, you know, it wasn't just the nitrogen and the phosphorus, it was the ammonia, the urea breaking down into ammonia. And of course, you know, when I was a kid, I remember my father, he could buy small packages of ammonia and put it in the fertilizer and spread it on the lawns, you know, and it made things really, you know, the year he spilled some, we had clover growing there for 5 years. I mean, it just, so it's all nutrient driven,
right.
all of our problems, but the solution starts at your own home. And it's, you know, it's not just a matter of, you know, pull your own weeds. You don't have to use the new 6-month formula. You spray your driveway, you get a big rain, 3 days later, everything you sprayed in your driveway is now in the lagoon.
Right.
And not only does it last for 6 months, but when it breaks down, it becomes even more dangerous to us, and we are unsure of the consequences because Monsanto is so effective at squashing all the studies,
right.
Especially in America. It's like, you know, we went 20 years with sugar influencing everybody. It's the fat in your diet that's causing the problems. It's not
right.
the sugar.
Yeah.
And now we know that like cigarettes, they use the same company. The manufacturer Doubt, the same people that the climate change people fight us over. Mm-hmm. And they take 1 or 2 statements and they blow it up and they give it the same standing as 97% of the scientists, and we get a bad read. The problem is the environmentalists can't fight these guys. Corporations are citizens now. Citizen United has changed the government. And we, you know, if you don't, all you have to do is look at our Congress and what they did. The first thing that they did, they tried to remove ethical oversight of themselves. The second thing they tried to do was make it so that any person in Congress can take any person working for the federal government and reduce their pay to $1 a year, which is essentially a firing.
Wow.
The third thing they tried to do was remove ethical oversight of our president. So they're not really on our side. You know, they are running the Koch brothers agenda. Our Supreme Court has been corrupted. They're disassembling the EPA. They're screaming it costs money. The truth of the matter is that for every dollar spent in restoration on the Everglades, you get 3 or 4 or 5 back. Every dollar you spend on the lagoon, you get 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 back. There is a great return on clean water, on healthy environment.
Yes.
You know, agriculture, they will tell you, look at how many millions of dollars we bring in. Fishing dwarfs agriculture,
Yeah.
not tourism,
Yeah.
fishing.
Yeah.
And it affects everybody.
And
You guys, you're
Yeah.
the realtors.
Realtors, right.
Every time there's a new project, the builder wants to get all these exemptions. He wants to go from 20% coverage to 80% coverage.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
They want higher density levels. They don't want to be responsible for their stormwater. And every one of those new projects reduces the value of every existing project because it damages the water, and dirty water you can't sell. Look at Liana Boo. He
Oh,
lost
yeah,
a
Liana.
monster sale in '98, and he started the Rivers Coalition.
Rivers Coalition,
And,
right.
nobody worked harder with a bunch of stubborn, hard-headed people than Liana Boot. How
Yeah.
he kept, it was like herding cats, only
Yeah.
big, mean cats.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, in the court of public opinion, and with our voices united, like we are doing, putting you on the radio tonight, having your website, having that video go out, having it go on YouTube. If people will go onto YouTube and click like and share that video, I think we're going to start to see a difference, because the more you wake up the people, the more they don't want what you and I don't want. We don't want dirty water. And speaking of economy, you have a number on your website, and I just had it, and it's billions that we, in economy that we have for
The lagoon?
The lagoon, yeah.
The one on my website is probably the 2005 study that says 3.72 billion.
Yeah.
There has been a recent one that puts it upwards of 10 billion and maybe even more.
Okay,
Because they left things out.
Right.
And, it's an extraordinary amount of money. The number one private employer in Martin County is the water.
Yeah. Well, the whole mission of the Indian Riverkeeper is to protect and restore the waters of North America's, the whole thing, most diverse estuary, the Indian River Lagoon, its tributaries, fisheries, and habitats through advocacy, enforcement, and citizen action. And that last bit, folks, is the most important part, I think, of that, because there's more of us than there are of Marty. He's one citizen. We need to help Marty.
You do.
And you need to help yourself. So get on board, get on the boat, to get on the river, to clean it up.
Let me say this.
Go ahead.
I travel all over the state of Florida. I deal with advocates of all types. And without fail, they are all jealous of the water advocates that we have in Martin and St. Lucie. We have the most educated advocates in the state of Florida. The state of Florida cannot come run their bullcrap lines across us. We don't buy it. We know better.
No, we're educated, and I want to thank Gail Ryan and give her a shout out tonight. She hurt her back, and
Yes, she did.
I know she's listening on the radio tonight because she can't even sit up to look at this on a computer. Poor thing. Gail has been a tireless crusader for the River Warriors, and I love you, Gail, for all you've done. You're always sharing my posts, and thanks for sharing this tonight. So give Gail a shout out if you're a friend of hers. She's ailing right now. And another friend of mine, Chris Teagarden, and her friend John Haddocks were in an accident several weeks back. They're recuperating now. And another dear friend of mine, Mariana Burgund, had a small stroke. And so if you know Mariana, she's a realtor. She's awesome. Send her a note. Drop her a line. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. And just really quickly, I am going to have a couple of open houses. I got to do my commercial right here, Marty. Sorry. I have a brand new, beautiful listing near downtown Stuart. You could bicycle to downtown Stuart. It's so awesome. It's on Dolphin. Speaking of water, it's the Dolphin House. I love it. It's on the street Dolphin. Wow. It's at the corner of 8th and Dolphin. I'll be there this weekend from 2 to 4 p.m. at 803 Dolphin. It is a precious house. It's 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms with a huge, beautiful pavilion in the back for enjoying a beverage, an open patio. There's an artist studio. I call it my she cave and he cave house.
Wow.
Because there's a work shed off of the garage, and then there's this beautiful artist studio out in the backyard. So everybody can do their own thing and putter where they want to. And then that's, the price on that is $298. And then one other thing, I have an open house also in Oak Ridge, 1198 Bay Hollow Court. So look for this on the internet on my Facebook page. That's going to be from 11 to 1. And that's an ocean access community. They have their own boat ramp, and that's in Palm City. So 2 things going on this weekend. Please pay attention to that. And that's on juliasansevier.com. Those will be posted on my website, and I'll also put them on my Facebook page, which is Julia Sansevier, Florida Waterfront Specialist. And we're going to have to run in next week. I thank Marty Baum tonight. I can't thank you enough. Next week, Art is Everywhere, and the RAMC Extravaganza, and justinwings.org. So you're going to hear more about that. And thank you, Marty Baum, our Indian Riverkeeper.
I'll be having a fundraiser at the middle of next month. Dana Lyons, who wrote Cows with Guns, will be here performing for us. So
great. Okay, thank you. And we'll talk about that on Facebook. I'm sorry I didn't know about that event. So tell us on Facebook what day it is.
It hasn't been firmed up yet.
Oh, okay, good. So when it is, we'll put that on the group.
We're struggling with conflicting schedules. Dana is doing an Earth Day concert for one of the Charlotte waterkeepers up there.
Awesome.
In North Carolina.
Well, I want to thank everybody who joined us tonight on Facebook. We had quite a bunch.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we had quite a bunch of listeners and shares. So thank you. We had your wife, Robin, Sharon Hillpaw, and gosh, we had a bunch of people. If I can see all the names, I want to give a shout out to everybody.
Quite a few of our people were up in Tallahassee today.
Oh, that's right.
The Senate Bill number 10 moved forward.
And what is that one?
Well, that's the buy the land south of the lake.
Okay, good.
That Senator Bradley wrote the bill, but this is Joe Negron's deal. Joe has put himself on the political line.
Yeah.
I have not always been kind to him because we did not always agree on how things would be done, but he has taken probably the greatest political risk of his life. He has stood up for the community. I cannot say enough for him.
Yeah.
He has worked hard. He said some powerful things up there. He's
Good.
just not allowing them to run their stuff on him.
And that's what we need. And thank you, Joe Negron.
That's it.
He is the president of the Senate, and we can't thank you enough. That's one person I'm glad I voted for. And I want to thank Amy Lane, Sonia Sunny, Beth Ann Algie, Debbie Culp, Kathleen McElvoy, Eric Ziegler, Mary Clegg, my mom in Texas, Carrie Caroline, Betty Osceola, Sharon
Betty,
Hill-
all right,
yeah,
Betty.
Robin Ann Baum, Troy Brown, and Cindy Wiley Rude from Martin County Rocks. Cindy, we're going to have to figure out something to help out with the river and everything. So with Martin County Rocks and the Indian Riverkeeper, it's a great show. You guys need to share this from here on out so we can get the word out and have some help for Marty. Do your part. Don't use fertilizers. All right. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Marty.
Thank you.
Okay.
A
A lot of likes. Thanks, everybody.
Everybody's hitting the.
They're hitting the likes. Yeah, we're hitting the likes.
Very popular.
Yay, yay.
We had the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program, and Troy Rice was the administrator of that. And he suggested to the St. Johns River Water Management District that they adopt Florida-friendly yards along the lagoon, which means no fertilizers and no herbicides and pesticides. The next day, the governor fired him. 2 days later, he took apart the National Estuary Program and said the state refuses to fund it. I stood before the governing board in South Florida and said, you know, you guys should just all band together and tell the governor that we need to care about our people and to buy the land. Do it in unity. He doesn't have the temerity to fire all of you at the same time. He's too busy with Waltergate, the top cop that he fired. I was wrong. Nestle wanted to increase their water withdrawal by one of the springs, by Jenny Springs up there. And
We're still live, just so you know.
and the Water Management District governing board said, we don't think that's a good idea. Our springs are already going dry. The governor fired 5 of them.
Okay.
All 5 of them. So,
and on that note,
right now we've got
Good
we
night.
have reinstituted the estuary program, and Dwayne DeFries is working it. We have a real good one on the South Coast in Charlotte, Southwest Coast. Jennifer Hecker is over there running that one. So we got great people. The Marine Resource Council is doing good work. They've been doing a surficial water study that is probably going to scare a bunch of people. They're doing a report card on the lagoon that cost upwards of $1 million to put together. We'll have a really good science-based report card coming out here pretty soon.
Good.
So there's good stuff happening.
Good.
You know,
That's good to leave on a positive note of some sort. I'm gonna end this. Thanks,
Well,
everybody.
We had